there's one physique you seriously don't want to be stuck with, it's the skinny fat physique. Trust me, I've been there and it's terrible. You look slim in clothes, but underneath there's no definition, no muscle, just soft and flat. I know that struggle way too well, but I managed to turn it around and obtain the muscular V-taper aesthetic physique that I have today. Wide shoulders, small waist, and a decent amount of muscle to the point where I look aesthetic. The transformation was actually so crazy that I now get accusations of being enhanced, which honestly blows my mind because I know exactly where I started, and to get these accusations now is incredible. If you're stuck in that same place and need a way out, in this video I'm going to show you exactly what steps to take in a very comprehensive manner so you can get out that cursed skinny fat phase. In my experience, I've noticed that there is in fact two types of skinny fat, one with a decent amount of muscle and another with almost a negligible amount of muscle. Which steps you take to get out of the skinny fat phase solely depends on which type of skinny fat you are. This is something you have to establish right now to determine which path you take to get out of this skinny fat phase. You have to look at your current physique and determine if you have enough muscle to be satisfied at the end of your cut when you've got rid of all the fat you currently have. The thing I'm trying to emphasize here is you have to be happy with your end result. So if you don't have enough muscle to start cutting and getting out of the skinny fat phase, you're just going to end up incredibly skinny at the end of this. If your answer is no, meaning you don't have enough muscle to get out of the skinny fat phase and be satisfied with your results, then that brings us to our very first point, the bulk. Bulking is scary, but you have to go through that process to pack on enough muscle so that when you start your cut, at the end of it, you'll end up with a small waist, wide upper proportions, and a aesthetically pleasing physique. The goal is to put on as much muscle so the love handles are less visible, the upper proportion is filled out so that skinny fat visualization is no longer there. Here is exactly how you can get the most out of your bulk before you start getting lean. Go on a 300 to 400 caloric surplus, eating around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Once the diet side of things are in check, it's now time to shift your focus to the training side of things. What you're doing in the gym, your frequency definitely has to increase. The amount of weights you're lifting has to increase. You can no longer lift light weights. You have to train to pack on serious amounts of muscle so that when you start cutting, at the end of your cut, you will be satisfied because you have put on a ton of muscle, that your end result is a lot more aesthetically pleasing. And the fastest way to do that is to ensure that each workout that you're hitting is intense as possible. This bulk that you may need to start can take a couple of months, but it's the perfect time to start because winter is coming up. When you are confident that you have packed on enough muscle and are satisfied, then you should begin to consider finally starting to cut. A lot of people don't want to bulk, but it's honestly the best decision you'll make because your end results will be 10 times better. You will literally thank yourself forever for that bulk that you did. If the topic of bulking is alien to you and you need guidance on how to complete a bulk as successfully as possible, check out ShanyShred.com for my lean bulking program, which is actually the best way to bulk, lean bulking, where you minimize all the side effects of bulking whilst enjoying all the fruits of bulking. It's a very comprehensive guide that entails of a lot of detail that will help you through this process as smoothly as possible to ensure that when you start that cut, you will obtain the best results. If you are on the other side of that coin, meaning you already have a significant amount of muscle on your frame, here's exactly how to escape the skinny fat physique phase in your circumstance. You're going to have to cut, but with a very, very important twist. We're going to do it in a way where you keep all the muscle that you've built over the past few weeks, months, years, and also add more whilst stripping the fat. The best way to do this is to cut on a small caloric deficit. Now that means eating around 200 calories below your maintenance calories. This is a lot easier to do than a large caloric deficit, but only works to the best of its ability if you follow these 3 important key principles. The first one being an extreme amount of consistency. With such a small caloric deficit, uncoordinated cheat days or cheat meals can literally wipe out weeks worth of progress, meaning you have to be locked in. Every day counts. You're only on a 200 caloric deficit. If you have a cheat day, you're literally going to push yourself back weeks, because on a cheat day you may go even as far as consuming 3,000 calories or 1,200 calories above your maintenance, meaning if you're on a 200 caloric deficit, it's going to take you days, so many days to make up for that cheat day. The second very important key principle is training like you're on a bulk. Now, what do I mean by that? Being in a caloric deficit naturally means your body's gonna have less energy to work with, but you can't let that stop you from training intensely in the gym, because remember, you have to put on muscle on this cut. And the only way to do that is if you're training in a progressive overload extremely intensely and making sure you're pushing heavy weight. Yes, of course, it's going to be more difficult, but with the right pre-workout stimulants like caffeinated energy drinks or even a coffee or whatever you're normally used to, and of course good nutrition with the diet that you'll build, ultimately will allow you to still train intensely. So essentially, don't use the fact that you're on a cut as an excuse for not training intensely, because it's very important. The third point I want to highlight is using cardio strategically. Cardio isn't there to destroy you, it's there to make dieting easier. Let's say hypothetically you burn 400 calories on the Stairmaster. Now that essentially means you can eat 400 calories more, ultimately making your diet a lot easier. Now this is something you kind of have to do, because if you don't eat those extra 400 calories, that essentially means you're now on a 600 caloric deficit rather than a 200 caloric deficit, meaning you will cut down even faster and sacrifice those gains. So cardio isn't something you have to really do, but utilize it in a way to make your dieting easier, because dieting honestly is the hardest part about being on a cut. And also the fact that if you're eating more, you're more satisfied, you're more fueled for your workout, you sleep better. So it's a bonus doing cardio on this small caloric deficit cut. If you follow these 3 important principles efficiently, you will get the most from this small caloric deficit cut, and it will 100% be worth your while, rather than just cutting down and being skinny and losing all the muscle you've gained, and also gain no muscle in the process, ultimately resulting in a skinny physique at the end of it, which is essentially pointless. Because let's be honest, everybody wants that aesthetic V-shaper with a significant amount of muscle mass. Now that you have established which route to take to get out of the skinny fat phase, it's now time to structure a routine. And you have to base this routine on your weak points, training frequency, and most importantly, it has to be realistic. So you actually stick to it and be consistent. I made a whole routine on paper when I initially started, and I kept overloading myself and draining myself because it was too much. So make it realistic and something you can 100% commit to. Make a gym split consisting of your weak points being trained every 3 days. I made it my priority to build up my chest during my bulk and cut, and honestly I was blown away by the end of the process, because I had put on so much more mass than I had initially started with. Likewise, you have to do the same thing with your weak point, or even a desired muscle that you just want to grow out of aesthetics reasons, or the fact that you just want to have more muscle in that section. The next thing is to build a diet in your caloric range like we discussed earlier, but this diet has to be quite diverse so it stays interesting and you don't get bored of it. I've seen time and time again people following a very robotic diet which they eventually get bored of and can no longer stick to it, which ultimately leads to cheat days or cheat meals that halts your progress or pushes you even further back. That essentially in a nutshell is how you escape the skinny fat phase, choosing either route A or route B, all based upon what your physique currently looks like, and then to structure it in a way to get the most efficient results possible. If you're new here, make sure you guys subscribe. We are so close to 50,000 subscribers. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.